Money FM 89.3, the best of the afternoon update. The afternoon update with Lin Fu.
Money FM 89.3, you're with Lin Lee, and welcome to Industry Insight, where we break down the big shifts shaping industries and businesses across Asia and beyond. Now, Asia accounts for nearly two-thirds of global digital wallet spending, which is around $9.8 trillion a year. That explosion in digital payments has raised the bar for businesses too, who now need to move money faster, manage liquidity better, and make smarter decisions across borders. Joining me live in the studio to talk about how Treasury functions are evolving to meet these demands is Fabian Khoshbakht, Managing Director and Head of Treasury Services for Asia Pacific at BNY and Global Head of Client Insight and Innovation. Fabian, welcome to the studio. Great to have you here.
Good afternoon. Great to be here. Thank you.
Fabian, you've had more than 25 years in the industry. You started your career at ANZ in Australia, then worked across Asia and the US, even serving as a CFO and treasurer yourself before returning to Asia to lead BNY's Treasury services here. You've seen firsthand how Treasury has evolved over the decades. It used to be viewed as a quiet back office function, just keeping the books balanced. But now it's right up there, right, as a strategic driver for businesses. From your perspective, having worked on both the corporate and banking sides, what's driving that shift?
Wow, long history there for me. Here's how I look at this. I think it was a natural evolution that took place. To your point, as a back office function is what Treasury used to be. That's evolved into really the Treasury function, the role of the treasurer, the corporate treasurer, global treasurer, has become a value-added service to the entire organisation. They play an important role, right? From managing the business, managing liquidity, thinking about how they invest, why they invest, where they invest, strategy around where should we be thinking about expanding, our horizons in terms of, delivering services, products, whatever that may be. So I think that's what's led to this important role becoming or getting a seat at the table, which in the past was, as you say, in the back doors, in the back rooms. So I think that's why it's become so important.
Talk to us about real-time economy and perhaps regulatory complexity as well.
Yeah, so, everyone talks about real-time. Whether it's real-time payments, real-time treasury, how do various countries, regulators position real-time? I tend to say, let's take a couple of steps back. What does real-time mean? Does real-time mean moving something from point A to point B in 1 second, in 10 seconds, in 30 seconds? The average consumer, if we think about it, people like you and I, we go out for dinner and we split the bill and I need to send you $50. Do you really care if that comes to you in 1 second, instant, or if it takes 60 seconds? Some people do, but the vast majority of the retail world just wants to make sure that their payment arrives. I think once you start to move into small to medium enterprise and then large corporates, multinationals, now the position changes and real time becomes much more important. And I think this is where regulators are starting to play an active role to guide financial institutions, fintechs into what does that mean. Ultimately, if you think about Amazon, right, the little truck that's delivering your goods to you and you can follow it through its entire journey, to me, that's what the definition of real time for payments is, right? If I can see as a corporate treasurer or an FI and I'm moving my funds from point A to point B, can I see it go through its cycle and I feel confident it's going to arrive?
All right. So it's not only that, it's about keeping cash safe as well and also about helping the business grow and stay competitive, I would think. Now, if you think back to when you started at ANZ, what do you remember most about how Treasury worked back then compared to now?
Paper.
Wow, that long ago.
Paper was one of the driving forces. Checks were still relevant back in those days. Very little payment went through electronically. It was just at the outset of electronic payments. We never used data. Data was not a thing we talked about, right?
You're kidding me.
Not really. Not to the levels maybe we talk about it today. And I think if I look at banking, financial services in general, and the evolution that it's gone through, obviously the electronic banking as a whole has evolved, right? We went from, I recall, doing installations of our internet banking platform back at ANZ using disks. Then we went to CD-ROM, and then it became internet banking. But now we've got all the apps on our phone, and we can very quickly move funds, be it a corporate or an individual, right? That's one piece of it. The other piece of it for me is the advent of data and how we're using data to enable everyone to be smarter, to be more efficient. And that, to me, is that whole piece to your previous question around moving money instantaneously. Well, data allows us to do that. Smart routing, as an example, what we're thinking about at BNY is you may want to move a payment from point A to point B, and you may have selected a credit card. Silly example, but it's an example. But we think it's actually faster to do it through the low-value payment system. You don't need to pay for a credit card to do it. So it's really data that enables FIs to better serve their clients.
And I think nowhere is it moving as quickly as Asia. It's clearly, this is the region at the forefront of digital payment adoption, with digital wallets and instant payments now a norm in many markets in this region. How is that shaping what corporate clients expect when they move money across borders?
Yeah, it's an interesting question and dilemma for corporates and FIs as we, support our FI clients. From a BNY standpoint, we provide, services to FIs who then provide services to their corporate clients. They're actively looking for more efficient channels that they can leverage as they sell goods offshore, as they're collecting money from offshore clients and wanting to bring them back here to Singapore, to Vietnam or to China. It's becoming part and parcel of the types of solutions that corporates are asking FIs, and then FIs are asking BNY. So, this whole shift or paradigm that's happening right now, again, instant settlement, faster payments, more data. Let's introduce AI into the everyday evolution of what the average corporate treasurer does, but also importantly what FIs are doing to enable those corporate treasurers.
Okay, we touched on this a little bit earlier. Navigating different regulations and market nuances across countries, that must be a big part of the challenge as well.
Absolutely, right? I often talk about this internally at BNY. Having spent the last 13 years in the US, we had a regulator. We had one central bank. Then you move to Asia, and BNY operates in 14 different countries. So that means 14 different regulators, 14 different central banks, and our role is to make sure that we adhere to all of those policies. But what's great about APAC is that the regulators do spend time comparing notes, sharing technology and infrastructure. I'll look at the MAS here. We've got a great relationship with them and we work closely with them. And you think about what they have enabled across especially Southeast Asia with the movement of funds for both consumers and corporate. And we as a financial institution have helped enable that on behalf of the regulators in this region.
Okay, I know that this phrase is quite commonly used in the space that you work in, fintechs, as frenemies. Could you unpack that for us? What does that relationship look like for a bank like BNY?
Yeah, it's my favorite saying. I actually like it. I think I've been using that term now for at least the last 4 or 5 years. As FIs, we created the space, if you really think about it, for fintechs to come and, venture into our world. And I'm speaking very openly as I always do. We didn't focus on those small areas that the fintechs came into. Now, they do those really, really well. Fintechs are not going away. We know that. FIs like BNY are not going away. We're 240 plus years old. We'll be here for another 240 plus years, as will many other institutions. For BNY, we look at fintechs. Frenemies is an interesting term. It's good, bad, and everything in between. I see them as our partners, right? They have carved out a very unique space that they operate in, and they serve a segment that BNY does not serve. But that doesn't mean that we can't help support those fintechs in a way that enables them to support that customer segment. Now, that could be, underserved communities. It could be small businesses that can't work with established FIs. There's a whole spectrum that they are solving for. Our role is to partner with them and help provide them an avenue to be able to move funds globally, right? That's the role I see us playing. That's why I think they're our frenemies, right? They are our friends, but they're also, stealing some of our...
Picking up on that, Fabian, can you share a recent example of how working with a fintech has helped you deliver something that clients couldn't have got otherwise?
Recently in Singapore, we actually partnered with a Singapore-headquartered fintech to enable them to be able to move funds globally, US dollars in particular to start off with, at a much faster, more efficient means for them. What that did for this particular client, it opened up a whole new space for them specifically, but also for their client base, right? So if you think about enabling those SMEs and opening up a whole new market for them to be able to sell their product or service, or to enable our client to be able to move multiple currencies at speed, they've carved out that special piece for them. We'd never do that, right? We'd never do specifically what they do on the ground here in Singapore, but we partnered with them to open up new corridors of moving funds around globally, and into APAC too, for that matter.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to technology. You've been embedding AI and advanced data analytics into your services. Can you give us a sense of how that's helping Treasury teams?
Yeah, so I'll unpack that question into two parts. One is on the BNY side. AI has been around for a long time. Gen AI is something that we've all now started to talk about and deploy over the last 18, 24 months, I guess. So from a BNY perspective, we've had AI for a long time. Over the last 18 to 24 months, we've deployed ELIZA, which is our internal AI platform. And that has gone a long way to enable our teams, right? So if you're a salesperson who's going out to meet with a client or a prospect, you can use ELIZA to ask it very meaningful questions to save you time and effort and enable you to spend more time focused on the client rather than doing work internally. That's just one very, very simple use case. Obviously, we do a lot more. We've recently announced that we're creating digital employees. They have their own employee ID, they do their own jobs, but they still require a human to come in over the top to confirm what they have done. So that's on the internal side, literally scratching the surface of that. On the treasurer side, I think that's where we're really now starting to see Gen AI, AI in general, starting to take shape. And corporate treasurers, CFOs, are also starting to take advantage of this. A lot of it is about how do I enable my business to be better, right? Without necessarily the need of hiring more people. I don't think anyone should be under any illusion that just because AI has been introduced into your organisation, that means you're going to get rid of human beings. That's not the case. Certainly not the case with BNY. We're really focused on enabling every member of BNY. Every employee right now is required to be trained in AI. I think we're up to about 90% of employees at BNY have done a course in ELIZA, and they're using it on an active basis. So if you think about that and think about how a corporate treasurer is thinking about this, then they're seeing the fruits of our labour. They can turn that into what they need. So cash flow forecasting, just to give you another quick example for a corporate treasurer, super important, super hard to do. Most of the time it's done in good old Microsoft Excel. But now AI is enabling that. right? And getting more accurate and going out even further.
Fascinating, Fabian. So much to talk about when we talk about AI, right? But we've got to move on. We're running out of time. You oversee client insight globally as well, as I understand. So what are the top priorities you're hearing from clients right now?
Give me analytics about me. We've been on this journey over the last 18 months for client insights where we spent a lot of time focused on getting our data right, our client data that we sit on. And we sit on a lot of client data. That was the first part of our process. The second part is really converting that data into client analytics. And as our clients have started to see analytics about their payment flows, how are we processing their payments? When are they processing? What different factors influence where their payments go and how they're processed? Our clients are thirsty for that now. Because what it does is twofold. One, it allows us to go back to our clients and say, you can be better, right? The other piece it does for clients is it says, not only you can be better, but there's a benefit here for you because you can now serve your customer better. And that's our goal here in APAC is how do we use analytics to enable our clients to go out and sell more to their customers, to make their customers more efficient. Whether it's money coming in from outside of APAC or money that needs to go out of APAC, that's our goal. That's our mission, is enablement of our clients' customers.
Amazing. It really, really sounds like Treasury is no longer just a backroom operation. And before we wrap up, what's next, Fabian? What do you see as the biggest changes or opportunities coming for Treasury functions in the next few years? Yeah,
look, I think the continued focus on digital. This wouldn't be an interview if we didn't talk about stablecoins, CBDCs. I won't say the C word, but crypto.
You did.
I did. So I think that's really the next frontier, and many of the regulators here in Asia in particular are leading the charge on that. With the Genius Act coming through in the US, I think that is a promising note for the US, for stable coins. I think that's the next frontier, but I think it's also going to take time and for people to understand and appreciate and trust what that means for us in the future, whether it's an individual, a corporate, or even the FI space. And fintechs, let's not forget our friends in the fintech space. I think that's one piece, but really continued focus on faster payments, clearer visibility and control of your liquidity and your cash, and obviously, earning a return on the cash that you hold, depending on where the interest rate environment ends up in the future as well.
And very quickly, I'm going to squeeze this in. Do you think we'll get to a point where Treasury becomes almost invisible, fully automated and integrated into business processes?
Wow. In some ways, yes. I think so. We've taken great strides, if you think about it, what the corporate treasurer's role was versus what it is. And as I said earlier, how hungry they are for automation, for AI, how they want to use data, and how they're asking their banks to provide them with data and industry perspective, right? So, yeah, I don't think it'll be that nirvana of fully automated, but I think we're on our way there.
Fabian, it's been such a pleasure having you in the studio with me today. And thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
That was Fabian Khoshbakht from BNY giving us a look at how technology, partnerships, and innovation are reshaping Treasury services, helping businesses thrive in an increasingly complex and fast-moving economy. You've been listening to Industry Insight on Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.